This is Spotlight Omaha. Spotlight Omaha is a local podcast that highlights local businesses and influential movers and shakers in the Omaha business community. Spotlight Omaha is brought to you by Pixel Fire Marketing. Now, from the Pyramid Contractor Studios, the host of Spotlight Omaha, Jimmy Allen.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome inside the Spotlight Omaha podcast, where we take you around the city of Omaha, introduce you to local business owners, influential figures, and people who are making an impact on our community. We are brought to you by Pixel Fire Marketing. If your company's not showing up at the top of search engine optimization, maybe your website doesn't convert to mobile, maybe your social media presence doesn't exist, pixelfiremarketing.com is here to help with all that. Check out pixelfiremarketing.com for more details today. Joining us inside of the Pyramid Contractor Studio is Michael Morris with True North Restoration. Thanks for being here, Michael. Appreciate it. You guys do a ton, so keep in mind it's only a half-hour podcast. What is True North Restoration? What are you guys doing?
True North Restoration, we are 24/7 emergency services, so your water, fire, mold, predominantly. So if there's water in your house or business that's not supposed to be there,
Sure,
that would be something that we
busy time of year for that.
Yeah, absolutely.
How when you're 24/7, how do you manage CRM and making sure that your employees or people that are responding to these calls are available at all times?
Well, right now we're still pretty small, so all phone calls go to me.
Sure. Sure you love that.
Yeah, it's okay though. I just don't really want an answering service involved just yet.
Sure.
I like that personal touch. So right now, if you call, you're going to get me every single time.
Okay.
24/7, and then either I head out or I'll dispatch technicians or whoever needs to go out.
You guys are a franchise, and that's a discussion we're having a ton of conversations about in this room specifically, because it does give you the backbone of a company and a sounding board. And if things go wrong, or if you have questions about something, there are a group or groups of people out there you can ask. Was that kind of the reason that you guys chose to go with the franchise?
Yeah, definitely was one of the reasons. I'd looked into franchising several years ago, and
Sure.
nothing really seemed like a good fit. That whole conversation kind of came back into the fold the end of 2023, and was talking with Blake Martin locally here in Omaha with not Ben and Trends.
Some franchise selling into there you go.
Yeah,
Okay, yeah.
So we got talking with him. You go through his whole process of personality assessment,
Sure.
all that, wants, desires, what you're good at, what you don't want to do, things of that nature. And he narrowed it down to 3. And True North was one of them. So he actually at the time used to work with the owner of True North Corporate.
Okay.
And so he had a good relationship with him and got us hooked up, and they checked all the boxes.
It's obviously somebody else's brand, but your business. What are your fingerprints looking like on True North Omaha?
Here locally, a real personal touch. 2 of my biggest things are empathy and efficiency.
Sure. Have to in this industry, right?
Yeah. So really tried to live that out every single day. True North as a corporate entity has a real strong biblical Christian background. So
is that a big deal for you?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Got a pretty strong testimony.
Sure.
Actually. So that was a big deal. And then obviously with the restoration business, you're in people's homes and businesses in a real vulnerable, chaotic environment.
I'm sure people that are watching this are sick of me saying this, but it's incredible. We never ask about religion, but it's incredible how often he comes up, and it catches me off guard every time, but it's really incredible. But you have a story that ties you into the restoration business and water damage specifically. Do you mind sharing that?
Yeah, we was in the middle of COVID. February, March, we had like a negative 35-degree day.
Yeah, I remember that.
Had 2 pipes burst in our living room. Looked like 2 hoses were coming down from our ceiling fan. Water got to the basement and went through that whole process. At the time, I had no idea what to do. Called in or got the water turned off and called my mom.
Sure. She's probably got the answers, right?
Yeah. Mom's always got the answers. So called her. She said, well, call insurance. Like, I know that. Like, you just don't know what to do.
I just have an icicle hanging out of my ceiling.
Yeah. It was crazy how quickly it goes. and how much water is left in the pipes even after you turn it off.
Is this a sign? Was this hey, maybe this is the direction we need to go because this happened to us?
Possibly.
Okay.
You never know.
But it allows you to be. You talk about empathy. It allows you to be
Yeah.
more empathetic with somebody because you go, "Hey, listen, I know you don't want to hear this, but I understand where you're coming from." Right?
Yeah, 100%. And in our case, we had linoleum and tile and carpet on our main floor, so all that stuff had to go. So we took the opportunity to do some upgrades, which is kind of cool because you've got this situation that seems so catastrophic.
Sure.
And you can use it to rebuild back better almost. So like you can take something that seems like you don't know what to do and really turn it into something cool.
When we talk about restoration, that's a big umbrella, right? A lot of things fall into that. You've talked about water damage, fire damage, storm damage, etc. Is there anything that True North doesn't do that people may expect, or is there anything that you guys do add that maybe people aren't expecting?
Right now, we're not doing biohazard. Some of our marketing materials have it. We just haven't gone through the testing yet. My wife's in the healthcare field, so that's something that we kind of wanted to get into. But yeah, predominantly fire, water, and mold are our biggest things right now. And then we do a little bit of reconstruction. And if we can't do it, I've got some really great rebuild partners that we work with that'll take care of anything from concrete to decks to complete remodels, which is great. And a couple people that just do drywall and paint.
Sure. Is there any, specifically in Omaha, is there anything that seems to be the cause of mold consistently, or is it just kind of a one-off here and there?
It's real humid here.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm asking.
Yeah,
is that kind of the reason?
Yeah, I think so. That's part of it.
Sure.
You've got a lot of old farmland
great point.
Homes are getting built on. We get obviously a ton of rain. Well, when it is raining, it's either obviously super dry or super wet. It seems like we don't just get a nice calm rain. What
does the ideal client look like?
The ideal client is just going to be someone that's in need. It doesn't matter if it's small or big. We've done real small jobs. That's just a few square feet of drywall that we cut out, and we've done big commercial jobs. We had to rent more equipment. So it's really just whatever the need is.
What was that experience like? The first time you had to do a large commercial job, was that kind of an eye-opening experience for you?
Yeah.
I can kind of tell by the response.
Yeah, no, it was good. We've got a healthy amount of equipment and just didn't have enough. So we've got a partnership with a company here, Ramsco.
Sure.
I kind of call the Costco.
It's great reputation. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So we're spoiled with them being in our back door. So corporate has a relationship with them, so we get a good discount there, which is fantastic.
Yeah, that helps out for sure.
But no, you mentioned why we picked True North, and one of them was the support. So like in that instance, when I got on site and then we were able to keep the job, I called the COO and, walked him around on FaceTime, asked him any questions that I needed to, and made sure I had a good bearing on everything. And they're great. How
much of your, we don't need exact numbers, but how much of your business from a percentage standpoint is residential versus commercial?
Probably about 80% residential to 20% commercial.
Was that surprising to you when you first opened up, or is that kind of the expectation going in?
I didn't really have an expectation. Honestly. We just hit our 1-year mark just last week.
Congratulations.
So, thank you.
Does that mean that commercial is the space that has the ability to have the most growth in it?
I think so. Definitely could.
Yeah.
Bigger typically.
Sure. Is that something you'd like to dip your toe into the water more of? Are you fine with an 80-20 split?
Yeah. No, I would definitely like to increase
And we're catching up with Michael Morse here of True North Restoration on the Spotlight Omaha podcast, brought to you by Pixel Fire Marketing and Pyramid Contractors. You mentioned it's mainly just you, but you do have a couple of contractors that you work with right now. When we talk about the hiring process or bringing somebody else into the company, is that kind of one of the bigger struggles for you to kind of take this thing that you're building with you and your family and hand it off to somebody else and ask them to kind of live the same belief system that we just talked about and the image that you have for your company?
Yeah, it was tough to be on the Indeeds of the world.
Sure.
People out there that you didn't know.
Yeah.
I've been real fortunate. My main employee for our first 6 months was my brother-in-law, who had taken a break from trucking to help the business, and he was fantastic. So he obviously is very intimately familiar with our family dynamic.
I think that's the first time somebody said we hired family and it went well. So congratulations on that.
Great.
Sure.
And then just been real fortunate with friends that just kind of wanted to do some part-time work.
Sure.
And then some people at the church, we went down to Tampa for the hurricanes.
Oh, okay.
So I brought down my kid's youth pastor, someone he was mentoring, my brother-in-law and myself, and we went down
Put a hammer in their hands.
we went down there for
Sure.
6 weeks, and so that was great. And then my main employee and lead technician right now, I knew, I've probably known him for like 10 years. He saw the post on Indeed, and he's been a fantastic fit for what we're trying to build as a culture. But everyone else that I talked to that I didn't know,
A little bit of a struggle.
It was bad.
I want to talk about the Tampa thing for a minute, because obviously that's just doing the right thing, right? That's maybe answering and calling or trying to help people out in need. But I got to imagine that's got to be a benefit from a skill set standpoint too, because you learn things, because it's different weather, different moisture we talked about, right?
Yeah.
That's got to be a benefit long term for the company as well, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It was great because we've got a couple other locations down in Florida.
Sure.
So I think there's 22 locations right now, and I think 3 of them are down there in Florida. So as a corporate entity, everyone kind of got together and was like, hey, does it make sense to mobilize? So with all the damage down there, we had our locations from like Hawaii, Oregon, Pennsylvania, Colorado, Nebraska, Iowa, Texas, Georgia, Tennessee, the other locations in Florida.
Obviously, you've only been doing this year. Is that pretty common practice for True North?
For True North, yeah. So if communities get hit hard like that, they'll mobilize. So like when Iowa got hit real bad, everyone got together and did that. So it's pretty cool to see. And then obviously we went down there to do work and make some money, but we also had the opportunity to help our local owner's church family. We found out there was a nanny that didn't have insurance and didn't have any need. So the church had reached out to them. So we partnered with them. And
it's incredible.
They handled all the demolition and all that stuff, and had stayed in contact with them after we left. And the church saved that money from the restoration and used it for the rebuild. So the church completely paid for the rebuild.
Incredible.
Yeah, so it was pretty cool.
I want to go back to severe weather for a minute, because obviously last night there was talk of hail in the Omaha area, but unfortunately for you, the Omaha Dome interfered with that as well. But when you is that something that you personally, because like you said, you're answering the phones right now, that you keep an eye on, the weather and things that are rolling in to prepare for what could be a long night?
Yeah, absolutely.
Does that make Bill Ramby your best friend?
Yeah.
Can you walk us through what that process looks like for you on a day where, obviously you said almost a year ago to the day, we had the big tornado that rolled through Elkhorn and Bennington. What does a day like that look like for you, and how do you kind of prepare for what could be the worst phone call of somebody's life coming into your cell phone?
You just try to get everybody on board and make sure that they know that it could be one of those days.
Sure.
The biggest thing is to get environment stabilized. So like if you get a bunch of phone calls, we might not be able to do all the demolition day one, but getting your dehumidifiers, getting your air movers, getting everything in place so the structure is starting to dry immediately, as opposed to staying wet and getting more saturated, and then you run the risk of microbial growth and other issues.
Seems to be the season where tree roots are finding their ways into pipes as well. And obviously that usually causes a main line to back up. Are you guys getting a ton of calls from that concern as well?
No, not so much.
Okay. And maybe that's a Papillion thing. It feels like everybody on my street is having that problem right now. Where do you see the most growth for the business over the next 2 to 3 years, and what does that look like?
We're so small right now.
Sure.
There's just so much,
anything's growth at this point, right?
There's just so much growth. Right now we're knocking down the doors of apartments, plumbers, property managers,
sure,
multi-unit homes, doing networking with Centersphere, doing stuff like this.
That's where we met in Centersphere. How has networking kind of helped you? Because listen, it completely changed how I ran my business. I didn't even know anything about networking. How did networking kind of open doors for you, if at all?
It's been really good. I'm an introvert by nature.
Sure.
So I struggle.
Good thing you're doing a podcast in front of a couple thousand people right now, by the way.
Perfect. No, it's great. It's good growth.
Yeah.
I struggle with self-promotion. I'm kind of one of those people that.
Do you struggle to talk about you?
Well, yeah, just let your work speak for itself.
Good point.
And do the right thing.
Good news is about this city, that can go a long, long way, though.
Yeah.
That's kind of one of the things that we've talked about here, because obviously Pixel Fire sponsors this podcast and people benefit from social media marketing and online advertising and all that. But it's amazed me how many people are in the same sphere of work but are willing to kind of hand out business and, hey, it's too busy over here and there's enough work to go around. Have you kind of seen that as well?
Yeah, we have. We've got a couple partners,
Mhm.
restoration companies
Sure.
that they'll be like, hey, we can't.
Was that surprising to you?
A little bit.
It's
Yeah.
blown my mind. Like
Yeah,
it,
because you
it
hear so many horror stories, even from the corporate standpoint of like, oh,
Sure.
this dog eat dog world, and everyone's kind of doing this. And it's like, well, it's like we're all better together.
For sure,
like,
yeah.
If we're working together and we're doing the same, like,
type of work.
yeah, to the same standard.
Yeah.
Like, there's no reason that we can't work together.
Selfishly, and I've told this story a couple times, but like when we started doing this, I was like, I can't wait for the cutthroat stories, and this person won't do business with that person because it has been such the opposite. Whether it's a deck builder, a lawyer, a nonprofit, whoever, it's like we pass business to so and so, and 99 times out of 100, they're passing it back, and it feels really unique to Omaha.
Yeah, Omaha is a special city.
It really is. You grew up here. You're a Millard West grad. We talked about that. Why is it a big deal for you to be able to do business in your hometown?
Gosh, it's a very unique place. People always ask, or like, well, what's so special about Omaha or Nebraska? And you really can't think of anything at the time. People are like, oh, there's just corn and farmers. And it's like, well, really, there's a real tight knit community. It's a beautiful city with all the green spaces we have, all the parks and all the bike trails and all the schools. And people that grew up here that stay here, they love it here, and it shows. I think Omaha is constantly growing.
Yeah, and the explosion in Gretna and Elkhorn right now is incredible. And there's research is going in North and South Omaha. There's just money being dumped into the city right now. It's truly beautiful to see.
Yeah, it's insane. One of our best friends in high school, their house was like a block away from Millard West, and I'm pretty sure that's like a strip mall and gas station.
Yeah, everything's different now.
And it just keeps going and going.
Because how old are you?
42.
42. Okay, so I'm 36. So yeah, I mean, I can remember when the only thing around Millard West was Millard West, and that's just not the case anymore. But is that we talk about the year anniversary? Is that discussion right there about the growth of Omaha, what's coming to the city, what's already in the city, the reason why it's the right idea to start True North in Omaha now?
It's a good question. It's definitely seemed like the right fit for us with the conversations.
Sure.
Don't really believe in coincidences, and like I said, Blake Martin was fantastic. And
if you have his contact, by the way, we'd love to get him on the podcast to talk about how he's helped people too, because I think this is the 6th or 7th time his name's come up. By the way,
great, and he's probably way better at this too.
Sure,
because he had his own podcast. I think he quit doing it.
Takes up a lot of time, folks. This is not easy.
But no, he ended up just being real genuine,
Mhm.
and True North Corporate kind of went through some changes as we were getting signed up. And
Sure.
he came over like 8:30 at night to be like, hey, I found this out. This is kind of what I'm thinking. This is what I've seen in the past when franchises are doing this. And like, just, you could tell he cared, which
it's pretty rare these days.
Something that I care about.
Sure.
So it was really cool. And yeah, it just seemed like the right thing to do.
Stephanie on LinkedIn wants to know how far do you guys work outside of the Omaha area for mold and water damage?
We can do work anywhere. Our technical territory is kind of Omaha to Elkhorn, loosely on L Street, which is kind of our territory. But we can go anywhere. So if it's in Lincoln or Valley or Blair or Fort Calhoun.
She says Fremont, so that's
Fremont.
Is that a little too far out of the footprint?
It depends.
Okay.
We can talk after the show for sure and see what's going on.
That leads us into the next part. How do people reach you?
We're on the socials, the LinkedIns, the Facebooks.
We'll make sure to tag Michael and his team after we get this posted as well. Yeah. Do you want to give your phone number or the phone number to call?
Yeah, absolutely. Good phone number to call is going to be 402-403-6500.
We've covered a lot today. Is there anything about True North Restoration we haven't mentioned that people should know?
We really do care.
Sure.
If you get on the Google and check out our reviews, they all kind of say the same thing.
Yep.
It's like, we care, we communicate, we show up every day, we're clean. And like I said, I'm on every job. I answer every phone call, and I make sure that we are doing the right thing. Like I said, we've been through it. And it is traumatic. And so to be a voice of empathy is huge. I probably have 25 to 35% of clients that end up like crying.
Sure, I can only imagine
For
their
whatever
biggest
reason.
investment in their life has been ruined. It's
So
completely understandable.
You get to talking to people, and you find out a spouse just got diagnosed with cancer. You've got another spouse that's got heart disease, another spouse that's got cancer. That they've already gone through this water loss a short while ago. They've got
Sure.
a kid going through something. And it's like you get to talking with people in these intimate settings, and pretty soon you're like, can I hug you?
Right. Yeah. This is how are you still standing? Right.
Yeah.
I want to ask about that real quick because my father doesn't have cancer or anything like that, but the city had flooded his basement on 3 separate occasions, which obviously isn't a restoration problem. There's nothing the restoration company could have done to cause that and or prevent it. Right. But how often does something like that happen where it's whether you have 40 sump pumps in your basement and, you put up a brick wall of sandbags or whatever to prevent it, it's just unpreventable. That didn't actually happen, but I mean, just being extreme here. Is that something that happens a lot where it's like, hey, there's just an anomaly that keeps happening, or is that kind of a one-off?
No, that's kind of the name of the game.
Yeah, that's what I was kind of getting by your conversation there.
So just in a year, we've gotten really good at troubleshooting and finding the root cause.
Sure.
Because we don't want this to happen again. So obviously, I'm not a roofer professional or a landscape professional or a plumber, but really good at identifying what the cause is and bringing in the proper people, whether we need to get a waterproofing company in there, whether we need to get a landscaper in there, whether a plumber needs to come out and figuring out like what happened, because I don't want our clients to do any rebuild before that root cause is figured out.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because we had
start putting up drywall and water comes through the wall.
Well, we had
kind of defeats the purpose.
Do that in the last year. I'm like, hey, you got to get this figured out. This is what I think it is. They're like, oh, we're just gonna rebuild it. And then they call back a month later, like, hey, we've got water in our basement again.
And you're like, I bet you do.
I was like, well, we'll come back. Like,
sure.
That's not ideal. For anyone, but
it just wall's got to be put back up though, right?
It is what it is, and water it's gonna mold. It's just gonna happen.
That's what it does. Yeah. Plug your phone number one more time where people could find you.
402-403-6500.
If you need restoration work done in the Omaha or apparently Fremont or wherever you are, give Michael and his team a call with True North Restoration. We appreciate you doing this, man. You did great. I know you were worried about being an injury. I think you killed it. Great job today.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us here on the Spotlight Omaha podcast brought to you by Pixel Fire Marketing and Pyramid Contractors. We'll be back tomorrow at 11 with a brand new guest. Thanks for joining us here on Spotlight Omaha. We'll see you in the morning.